Hi girls, so tomorrow we're going to keep going with curve sketching. We're going to do sketching fx times gx first, and we may do another one or two after that. So let's just do an example. So I'm just going to draw a couple of curves in. So that's going to be my first curve there, and here comes my second curve. Like so. So if I'm multiplying the two curves together, I'd like you to spend a minute thinking about what kind of information you might like to have put into the graph in terms of things like asymptotes and the like. So it might be worth pausing and just thinking for 5 seconds and trying to incorporate those yourself before I move on. Okay, so a good example of something you might like to include would be a horizontal asymptote at y equals 1. And let's just say that that happens to be it. And then let's say that that happens to be minus 1 there. And again, I'll draw my final curve in blue. And I want you to just think about what that means. So what it means is when the pink curve passes through y equals 1, like here for this x value, when the pink curve passes through, it means the pink curve, which is 1 times the grey curve. So it's 1 times the grey curve, so I have to pass through the curve there. And similarly, I have to pass through the pink curve here. And if I'm going to join those sections up, I'm multiplying two numbers that are bigger. So if I think about multiplying the grey by the pink, then I'm multiplying the grey, which is bigger than 1, by the pink. So it has to be bigger than the pink. So it has to look something like that. We also have to go through the zeros, right? So anywhere there's a 0, we pass through. So if I'm going to go to the right here, right, again, I'm multiplying grey by pink. Grey is smaller than 1, so I'm staying under the pink, and then I've got to pass through the x-axis like so. That's a terrible curve. It shouldn't look that vertical, right? It should look more like that. So I'll redo that. Okay, it has to pass through there. Then, under here, I'm going to multiply, so I'm still moving right at this stage, pink by grey, and you'll notice I switch what I'm multiplying by in different regions. You have to come up with your own way of thinking about that, but it basically comes down to, am I stretching, am I shrinking, am I thinking about multiplying by small numbers, am I thinking about multiplying by big numbers? So as I move right now, it's better to think about multiplying grey by pink, amongst other things because the pink one isn't down there, right? I can multiply the grey by the pink. The pink is bigger than 1, so that means I have to be bigger than the grey. So I just have to do something like that. Sorry, I should have gone back through there. But if I'd said, well, I have to multiply pink by grey, which is smaller than 1, so I'm trying to shrink this section, but also have it move down there at the same time, which is a lot more cognitive work for you, and you don't want to do that. I'm just going to try drawing that bottom one again. So something like that. And then, when the grey curve passes through, I should hit the pink curve, like that. And it's just going to keep going up pretty quickly. Right? So again, as I move left from where I had it, I've got to go through where the pink one goes through. And now I'm multiplying grey by pink. So it should be bigger, like so. And again, it should be bigger. Again, you'll notice here that there's kind of a line that's nice, so I'm going to pass through that, go back through there, pass through those points. Pass back through the intercept there, that shouldn't quite have been, sorry, it's got a bit messy looking. So go through that intercept, go through there, go back through that intercept, and then I've got to go bigger, oops. My curves aren't very helpful here, and I'm heading back towards the origin, so it's probably going to do something like this. Okay, that's a very rough way of thinking about it, but the keys are really these intercepts, 1 and minus 1. We'll also do some stuff with, derivatives and stuff, and that's more if you're given functions rather than diagrams. So, maybe we'll draw e to the x times log x tomorrow, for example. And after our lunch lesson today, we know how to differentiate these things. So if I was sketching that, I'll move on to a new slide. So you could just think about it as, have to multiply the blue by the pink. But maybe there's turning points that I don't know about. So if I draw through an asymptote at x equals 1, so that means I should pass through this curve here, because the pink curve is 1, I'm multiplying by the blue curve. When down here I'm going to be bigger than log, over here I'm going to be bigger than e, so it looks something like that. But the question is, are there turning points? Are there inflection points? There's a lot of other stuff that we can consider. So it might be worth trying to do that, trying to draw e to the x log x before tomorrow if you can, so that you've got something to come in with. But I'll probably try and do that at the start of the lesson. Maybe we'll try drawing sin x cos x or something like that, I don't know. It's really nice handwriting. But we'll think about what we might like to do tomorrow morning. Okay, so I'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning. Please try and get there on time so we can get cracking straight away and not get to assembly late and get in trouble again. All right, bye.